how have the past 2 years been? It's trite, I know, but I'm pretty sure we had high expectations from this decade when it comes to anime. The first year, 2020, has had a rough start, I've got to admit, but overall, have your expectations been met to start the decade off? We've got so many hits already that I won't be able to list them all. Instead, for today, I'm going to be talking about 10 of my favourite and what I think are the best new action anime in this decade. I'm going to be considering both my personal enjoyment and a show's effect on the community, how well it's received and such when making the list. Whether you're here for the sake of watching a year in review video or looking for something relatively new to watch, you are in the right place. Also, I'm not going to be including sequels here so we can get these new rising stars some shine. Kicking off the list, we have 2020's Decadence at my number 10. Decadence was quite the ambitious project by Studio Nut. Airing around the midpoint of the year 2020, in a very packed season thanks to all the previous delays, it kind of flew under the radar for the most part. Never mind the 3 big sequels that it had the misfortune of airing alongside, there's the really hyped God of High School, Great Pretender, and Rent-a-Girlfriend to contend with. However, for an action sci-fi show that looked like an offshoot to those Attack on Titan-like shows at first, it truly came into its own a few episodes into its run. For something that's not so popular, the team did a stellar job in terms of production, and it's a lot deeper than people initially gave it credit for. Can't be helped with the rough or generic looking start, but after finishing it, I'd say that I came out more than satisfied with the character dynamics and the messages in the show. It probably won't get a second season, but really it doesn't need one. You know, a lot of the popular action titles in the past few years have been in the form of isekai anime. But how about playing the role of the isekai protagonist yourself and assembling your allies, rising up the ranks and conquering a land ravaged by factions competing for supremacy? Dying is only the beginning. Welcome to the world of ReFantasia, Charm and Conquer, the sponsors of this video. ReFantasia, Charm and Conquer is the hot new RPG in town, putting you in the role of an isekai protagonist destined for greatness. But to get to the fight for supremacy, you have to gather your allies. And this, my friends, is by far my favourite part of the game. You know I'm a sucker for these waifu collector games, and ReFantasia is no exception. The character art is nothing short of awesome, and it gives me more motivation to get to know and recruit these characters who can range from cute to sexy. It's the newest batch in the whole city builder slash waifu collector genre, so if you're a fan of this kind of gameplay, you should check this game out. It helps that the game just launched not too long ago, so catching up to the rest of the player base isn't a problem at all. Join the fun by clicking the download link in the description. You can also use the bonus code for some nifty items that will come in handy. I'm looking forward to seeing you in-game, and I hope that we can have lots of fun memories together. However, if you prefer popcorn entertainment, look no further from Misfit of Demon King Academy in our number 9 spot. どうやら貴様の魔法は戦いにこれは気づいたか心臓の鼓動だ In terms of easy access, or how easy it is to get a random guy to watch and enjoy a show for dumb, mindless fun, Misfit of Demon King Academy is my pick not just for its season but also for its year. In what seems to be one of the last big hits out of a bygone genre, Misfit of Demon King Academy managed to stand out and not fall into irrelevance like around half of the similar stuff flying around in the early to mid 2010s. How so? By taking the overpowered main character trope and going all overdrive with it, making the thing look so self-aware to the point of parody while weaving actual drama and exciting moments in between them. In a way, it feels like Akashic Records, another similar setting that people cared about amidst the sea of magic academy shows that we used to get like 5 of every season a decade ago. Overall, it's a show that knows it doesn't take itself seriously and just provides a lot of mindless fun, coming at us with a lot of power fantasy tropes and some of the best character and power designs for the genre. It is more than that, however, and does come up with some compelling arcs despite the main character pretty much being the spiritual successor of God Tsuya. At number 8 is a personal favourite of mine, Glycemia. I'm not sure how big of a hit death game survival shows are to you all, but Glycemia has been one of the surprises of its season. I might be a bit biased because I also like Darwin's Game and Battle Game in 5 Seconds, but amongst those shows, I'd say that Glycemia was the one that stood out the most if we're talking general anime community. In contrast to Decadence, Glycemia took advantage of all those delays. It's just perception and all, but with the big hitters in its genre mostly out of the way, a lot more people tuned into Glycemia, and it wasted no time wowing them with the pristine fight scenes and very intriguing story. It's just a shame that this this one ended in such a confusing manner. They did an anime original ending right after starting to tease us with the big, overarching plot, because they probably figured out they wanted an action finale which wasn't anywhere near that manga stopping point. Still, the confusing ending does little to bring down the enjoyment of the show, and I dare say that the first 2/3 of Glycemia is legitimately a great show if you're up for edgy fights, a dark atmosphere, and some cool dynamics between the two contrasting leads. At number 7, my pick is Glycemia's season mate, Tower of God. Those were the days, weren't they? Back then, there was this movement to bring Korean webtoons in anime format, and what better one to start the movement off than probably the most popular webtoon of them all, Tower of God. Combining a lot of the familiar story beats with a very creative setting and a lot of great world building and cool characters and action, it's no surprise Tower of God became as famous as it did. Amongst the shows I've talked about so far, it's probably the most focused on exploration and adventure over fights. In a sense, it fits the traditional explorative mold that people have grown to love. It's also got a story that, while not as deep or profound as Decadence, relatively speaking, it does have its fair share of substance. My only gripe, however, is that the entire season is basically the prologue. Yeah, you heard that right. As a standalone, it does very well, and I really enjoyed it, but I think of what it could have been. Sure, it will get better soon, but I don't see this getting a second season anytime soon. It's a glorified commercial, even more so than the standard manga or light novel adaptations, and I feel because of that, it's such a waste. For number 6, I'll go for 86. Honestly, I haven't had too many chances to enjoy military anime the past few years. Mecha shows I do watch, and there are some great hits from the past decades like Code Geass and Gundam IBO. There are also fringe military shows, as in barely qualify as one in certain angles like Kimi-sen that I enjoyed, but if we're going with something that speaks more to us in a societal level, coupled with a sci-fi backdrop that's more of a few decades into the future instead of a century or millennia, it's a bit harder to find shows like 86. It's a testament to how unique 86 feels. Sci-fi and military aren't rare, but the way it's delivered and how much it acts as both an exciting action drama, a society study, and an ultimately heartwarming tale of trials and tribulations doesn't seem as common. It's got a little of everything you'd want from the genre. I dare say that compared to a lot of the hits that I'll be going over in the second half, it's even more profound and has themes that speak heavily to the world at large. Unfortunately, military and socio-philosophical commentary just doesn't seem to be as mainstream, which is why it's just a 6. It's not underappreciated or anything like that, not at all. It's just that given the package it's in, it just finds it hard to truly break into the mainstream. Oh, and if you've been enjoying the video so far, good. Why don't you hit that little subscribe button and give the channel a hand. I'm happy that a lot of you guys are enjoying the videos, but I'm finding a large percentage are still not subscribed. So if that's you, and you fall into that category, then I would absolutely love to encourage you to subscribe, like, and share the video. My 5th place pick is Tokyo Revengers.
めんどくせえな、マイキー。
Now, here's where the big mainstream hits start coming in. Tokyo Revengers by far has become one of the landmark shows of 2021. Combining shonen fare with the time travel premise that pops up a couple of times a year yielded what many people heralded as a unique battle shonen. While unique is probably not something I'll crown it with completely, it does feel like a change of pace from the superheroes, the demonic powers, the fire breathing, the super athletic sword fights and whatnot. It's also more packed with drama and the gritty atmosphere you'd expect from a show about delinquents. I give Tokyo Revengers praise, mostly for its consistency in terms of atmosphere. It stays consistent with its tone, what it wants to do, and doesn't flip-flop between serious, dramatic moments to comedy that comes out of nowhere. It's a show that derives its strength from the mature setup for a battle shonen, its attractive premise, and how it manages to hold everything together in a package all throughout the run. And that's probably why it's as popular as it ended up being.
そんなのてめえの決めることじゃねえだろうが。
4th place for me is Vivi. Here's something that I had mixed expectations for. All we knew about it is that it was a music-oriented action show with a sci-fi backdrop and that somehow Re:Zero guys were behind it. Dapé in sci-fi and one with Terminator-like vibes combined with music? Truly an interesting blend of things, right? It's easy to look at the special effects and praise Vivi is excellent in fields like music, art, and awe-inspiring fight scenes, some which I feel hold up damn well a year after its airing. Taken down to the bare bones, Vivi is a thriller anime that looks and sounds good, and in the fields it does well. It does really well. The amusing thing about Vivi, however, is that it's one of the shows that I feel resonate this strongly when it comes to talking about society's growing infusion with technology and all the dangers that come with it. It's got some themes that look more and more relevant the more years we go through in this world. Vivi, unlike similar shows like Ghost in the Shell, may not be remembered in the slightest years from now. Heck, I feel it's largely faded from the public sphere already actually, but there's no doubting its message, its core value as a sci-fi thriller, and how fun the ride it took me through when I first watched it. If we're talking just 2021, it has a case for being one of the best shows that year gave us. At third, let's look at Ranking of Kings. Here's a show that's very easy to give a pass. Just look at how it looks. Granted, I fell into the same trap, but I eventually came around to watching it and I have to say that I was blown away. For how simplistic it looks, Ranking of Kings manages to weave an underdog story for the ages. There's so much that people give Ranking of Kings praise for. There's the plot itself, there's the music and presentation, and there's a way in which it creates drama and stakes. Now, I agree with all of those, but for me, the strongest one must be in how it presented the characters. Every notable character, no matter how small they are in the grand scheme of things, feels really fleshed out with their motivations and character roots. Ranking of Kings is a classic example of the famous saying to never judge a book by its cover. Its art style unfortunately holds it back from being blind watched by people randomly browsing the seasonal lists looking for something new to watch, but I assure you, the journey is worth it. Second place is Mushoku Tensei. How could we talk about the top action anime of the past few years without talking about this? It's long considered the pioneer of the whole slew of Middle Ages isekai that has oversaturated the genre, so the hype was there. There's no denying what Mushoku Tensei brings to the table. It's been a while since I've seen this much love given to adapting a series. Where else can you see a studio being open for the sake of continually animating a series for years to come? It brings us visually stunning art, a character who would work for redemption and strength, a thrilling story of adventure and growth through challenges, and some of the best world building we'd had in isekai for quite some time. It's not without its wrinkles, but putting those aside, there's no doubt that Mushoku Tensei is one of the most complete isekai out there. It's not exactly profound or anything like some of the stuff I've showcased prior, but you can really feel the care given to its adaptation. Controversies and all, there's no doubt that Mushoku Tensei has a case for being one of the shows the 2020s will be remembered for years to come. For good or bad, it depends on your perspective. For me, the top spot belongs to Jujutsu Kaisen. It is too early to tell, but at the time of this writing, it's clear that Jujutsu Kaisen is the battle shonen of the 2020s. I won't call it the best at anything, but in everything, things are above average to great. It's got a premise that opens potential for growth while being easy to get into. It's got a cast that comes in a whole spectrum of character types. The sound and art is good, and it boasts some of the best animation we've seen from new shows the past 2 years. The excellent production all help elevate the already interesting magic system when we do see it come into play, creating a lot of memorable moments and battles, a lot which I've talked about on the channel. You can tell that it kind of feels like a formula, a blueprint for success, but having a blueprint alone isn't enough. See a lot of the one and done battle shonen, but for Jujutsu Kaisen to be making this kind of legacy for itself is something the anime team must give themselves a pat on the back for. In the same vein as why I placed Mushoku Tensei at 2, we just can't ignore its influence and the number of anime fans it managed to connect through its popularity. It's a show that I feel partially buoyed off Demon Slayer's popularity and brought back to life the whole genre of supernatural urban fantasy that was popular back then with shows like Shaman King and Bleach. So, how does my list compare to yours? Tell me in the comment section what your top action anime of 2020 to 22 are. If you've got more time, then don't forget to check out the channel for videos that you might enjoy. So hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to check out ReFantasia. The link's in the description. Once again, thanks for watching. I hope that you'll have a great day ahead, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you.